Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So let's go over flows today. Okay, so I'm in my Trailhead org and I think what we'll do for today is kind of make up sort of an arbitrary scenario to justify using a flow, but hopefully it makes sense. So what I'm thinking we'll do is, let's say we have an account here, right? So for example, I'm going to click into this account and I'm noticing that at least in my Trailhead org, we have this field called active and it is a pick list, I believe. So yeah, you can do yes, no, or no value. And what I want to do is create some quote unquote business logic that whenever an account is changed from active, so the pick list value being yes, to no, then all the opportunities that are, let's say, not closed won or closed lost. So for example, like these right here should automatically be changed to closed lost. I think that's a relatively decent scenario that I kind of just made up on the spot. So yeah, let's go ahead and draw this up in our flows. So let's go ahead and go into our setup. From here, I'm going to just search for flows and we'll click on flows. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is just create new flow right here. Click on that button. And we should be presented with this screen. And I think I'll make more videos in the future to kind of go over all these different options. But the one we're looking for is the record-triggered flow. If you just read the description, it says it launches when a record is created, updated, or deleted. This auto launch flow runs in the background. And just based off the scenario we went through, basically we would want this to run probably only on update. So yeah, let's go ahead and select the record-triggered flow. We'll go ahead and create that. And here, what we want to do is we want it to be kicked off from the account. So that is essentially the object we're selecting. So whenever an account record changes, and the trigger that we're looking for is updated. And like I said, in this scenario, it probably doesn't make sense to do it on created or updated, just because I don't think it would make sense to create an account and then have opportunities right off the bat. But every business logic and org is different. It depends on your scenario. In this case, just to keep this simple, we're going to say only on update. Okay. And obviously we need to have some conditions. So let's go ahead and just choose the first one. The all conditions are met because we really are only going to have one condition. And the field we're looking for a change in is the active. So if the active pick list field is equal to no right here. So essentially, whenever this record is updated and the active field is changed to no. And if you look at the operators, there's these other things, so you can, even use is changed, which might be useful in certain circumstances. But I think just to keep things simple for now, we'll just say whenever the record is updated and the active field is changed is equal to no. And right here, this is kind of important right here, and they kind of almost sound the same, but they're not. So just reading them off right here. When to run the flow for updated records, the first option is every time a record is updated and meets the condition requirements. So think of it this way. Let's say a user or some other flow or some other process, some external service updated an account record, and it just so happened that the active field was already no. Well, this flow would still run because technically the conditions are still being met. What we want in this case is the second option, that says only when a record is updated to meet the condition requirements. And what that means is if a record just happens to be updated, but this is already no, it shouldn't fire again. Technically, this will only make it so that only when it's changed to active or inactive rather for the first time, this flow the conditions will be met and it will fire. So I hope that makes sense. And the next one right here, it says to optimize the flow for. We have two options as well. The first one, it just reads fast field updates. Update fields on the record that triggers the flow to run. This high performance flow runs before the record is saved to the database. And the other one is to update any record and perform actions like send an email and so on and so forth. In this case, we're not going to be updating anything on our account. We're going to be updating a record related to it, which is in this case, the child opportunity. So we want to choose the second option right here. And in this case, we're not going to be doing anything with the external system, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and click done. And we are now presented with this first step right here. So now what we want to do is at the top right here where it says auto layout, I'm going to just go ahead and change it to free form. And that kind of just gives you these other options instead of having to click on the little plus icon here. It's just a kind of a preference thing. It doesn't really change much. And what I mean by that, for example, is if we go back to auto layout, if I click out of this, this thing disappears, or it doesn't show it to you. Rather, you have to click on this little plus icon, and then now you can kind of, either search for what you need, or just click on it and then it'll put it on your canvas. So just a small little difference there. I'm going to keep it in freeform just so we can kind of see all our different options. Well, the first thing we want to do is, once this flow has been triggered, well, we need to get all of the opportunities related to that account. So we're going to go ahead and just click on get records right here, or rather just drag it onto the canvas. And here we are presented with the options. So let's go ahead and give it a name. In this case, I'm going to just say get ops, like that. I would hope you guys are using better names than I am. This is just for demonstration purposes. And the thing we want is opportunity, like so. When we do that here, we can specify some conditions for the type of opportunities that we're looking for. And like I said in the beginning, we want to change all the opportunities. So if we go back to our opportunities list right here, we had said that when an account is made inactive, we want to basically close out all the opportunities. And what I meant by that is basically anything that's not closed won or closed lost. So for example, like these two values here, these should be converted to closed lost. So essentially we can go to our flow or our get records right here, and we can search for, I believe it's called stage is the field we're looking for. So stage. We're looking for that to equal to, or rather, we could probably do let's just do equal to. So there's a few ways we can go about this. Either we can choose the stage name to equal to prospecting, qualification, needs analysis, so on and so forth. Or we could do a not equals, does not equal, and then just say does not equal closed won and closed lost. Now, there are various reasons why you might choose one over the other one. In this case, if we do does not equal, I'm not sure if behind the scenes SQL query might be a little bit slower, because usually when you're writing code and you're doing SQL queries, if you do like in does not equal or is not in kind of a thing, the query tends to be slower. But I'm not sure how that works, how this works behind the scenes. But if we do it does not equal in this case, the benefit of doing it this way is in the future, if someone adds an additional field to the stage name, well, it would still be kind of valid in this scenario, right? Because we're really only looking for stages that are not this or that. Whereas if we did it equal to basically all of these right here, with the exception of closed won or closed lost, well, in the future, if we also want that stage to be excluded, then we would have to basically update our flow to also include it right here. So just something to think about in this scenario. What I'm going to go ahead and do is does not equal right here. And we're going to say does not equal closed won. And I'm not sure if I can include extra values like this. Let's go ahead and try that. Closed lost, see if it complains. It's been a while since I've done this, so hopefully this is valid. If not, we'll figure it out as we go along. Okay, so the sorting mechanism right here, we don't really care about it. How many records to store? We want to get all those records that meet this condition. And how to store them? Again, we're going to just go with the first option, automatically store all fields. I think there are scenarios in which you might want to choose these other ones, and I'll probably make videos in the future going over that. But for now, let's just keep things simple. And you might even want to add a description to this if you were actually doing this with the intent of pushing this thing to production. But for now, let's just keep it simple. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and click on this little circle right here and then just link it to our get records. So basically what we have now, when this record is triggered and the conditions are met, first thing it's going to do is going to get the opportunities that are not closed won or closed lost. Once we have that, we want to go ahead and loop through those and do something to them, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get the loop element right here. And in this one, we're just going to call it, and I want to make sure, I'm starting off with capitals. So just making sure I'm staying consistent. So we're going to say loop ops. And again, I'm hoping you guys have better naming convention than I do. So what we want to do is we want to loop through the opportunities that we got from that get records element. So you can see right here, it's a record collection variable. And the way to think about it, record collection is just like a list. If you're working with like Apex list, I think that's the easiest way to kind of say it. If you're not familiar with code too much, it's just like a literal list, like a shopping list. And each one is indexed. So the first thing on your shopping list would be, index 1 or 0 or whatever. And then you kind of read down the list from that. So I hope that makes sense. So we're going to iterate through those records we just got from our get records elements. And again, we don't really care about sorting because we're going to just go through all of them. So we can just leave it at first item to last item, and that should be fine. Once that's done, we again are going to go ahead and link these two elements together. So now what we have is we get all the opportunities that meet our criteria we want. We're going to loop through each one of those. And as we're looping through each one, we want to do two things. First is we want to change that stage name. So what we have to do is we have to drag this assignment element right here. And what we're going to say is set stage to closed lost, I believe it was. Yep. And then we can give a description if you wanted to. But now what we actually want to do is as we're looping through each one, and the way to think about it is we're gonna loop through each individual record that we got from our get records element. And to us, it's going to be presented as this thing right here, current item from the loop. So we're going to get that singular record. And what we want to do to it is get the stage name right here. And we want to set it equals to something, right? And in this case, like I said, we want to set it equals to the closed lost right here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and again, link it right here. And here we're given this little panel right here and it's saying specify when to go to the assignment. And basically we want to change that stage to close lost for each item in our collection. So make sure that it's set to this option right here, and we'll click on done. And now to kind of hopefully explain this a little bit better, from the top bottom, when our flow is triggered and conditions are met, we're getting all the opportunities that are not closed won or closed lost. We're going to loop through each one of those records, and for each one of those, we're going to set the stage to closed lost. Okay, so now what we have to do, and this is kind of an annoying part, because if you're familiar with code a little bit, you would think that, if you're doing a SQL query, you're storing that SQL query in a list and you can update that list and then update that exact same list, via a DML operation. But at least here, and I could be wrong, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below if there's a better way of doing this. But to my knowledge, if you were to go ahead and just do an update records after you're done assigning, the stage to closed lost, and you would do an update on, all these records that you got from this get records element, you're not actually updating the updated records, if that makes sense. What you need to do is you need to do another assignment right here. And in this case, we'll call add to collection, or we can do add to ops collection variable, like so. And what we want to do here is we want to create a new resource. And this resource will be a variable. And this variable will be called updated ops, like that. We'll just leave it as is. And then this, we have to make sure we check this. So allow multiple values, make it into a collection. And what we're going to store in it is a record. And the type of record we're going to store is an opportunity. And this, since we're not really working with Apex or code, we don't have to worry about it for now. So we'll just click on done here. And essentially what we want to do now that we created a brand new collection variable called updated ops is we want to add something to it. And what we want to add is the current item that we're iterating through. So, and we want to add the entire thing. So we don't want to add like just a specific value from that field. So just the entire record essentially. So let me go ahead and click on done, and then we'll set this up and we'll kind of recap it one more time so that it hopefully makes sense. So after we assign that stage to closed lost, now we want to take that entire record and then basically dump it into that brand new collection variable we created. Once that is done, we want to take the next step. So we want to basically close out this loop. So the way to think about it now is, again, one more time from the top, just so that this really makes sense, because I know I'm not explaining this too well. But once the flow is triggered and conditions are met, we're going to get all the opportunities that are not closed won or closed lost related to that account. For each one of those records, we're going to loop through them and we're going to change the stage to closed lost. Once we change the stage to closed lost, we're going to take that now updated record and add it to a brand new collection variable that we just created. And then essentially it's going to repeat again. And that's basically the whole purpose of a loop, right? It's going to iterate through all the records we fetch and is basically just going to keep looping until there are no more records to loop through. Once that is done, the last thing we want to do is now we want to go ahead and update those records. So right here, we'll call updates ops, like so. And these options right here, how to find records to update and set their values. What we want to do is we want to update the records based on the this option right here. So because we're not updating the account or records related to the record account that triggered the flow. Well, I guess technically they are records. The opportunities are records related to the account, but because we are storing the updated opportunities in a collection variable already, we can use this third option. We're just going to use the IDs in that collection variable we already have defined. And the way to do so is by going here in the select records to update, and we want to choose the collection variable that we had created, which was called updated ops right here. And because when we were dumping that individual record into this updated ops, we chose to just throw everything, basically all the fields in there as well. The ID should be in there. So we should be able to essentially just use this option right here. Hope that makes sense. So we'll click on done right here. And the last we want to do is move this right here. Once it's done looping, just tie that right there and we should be good to go. So I hope that makes sense. And again, just to kind of reiterate the whole point of having to add the updated record to a brand new collection variable. For example, if we click back in here and we got rid of this right here, we could just get the try to update the opportunities from get ops right here. So like that, right? But this opportunities from get ops doesn't actually have the changes that you did when you were looping through them and doing the assignment right here of the stage to close lost. It still just contains the original get records, which is kind of, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it can kind of be frustrating, especially like I said, if you're, if you write Apex code and, you try to be a bit more efficient by reusing the exact same list that contains your SQL queries. I guess this is done to make it easier for people in case they want to reuse the exact same original records for some other purpose. I don't really know, but anyways, just so you guys know, when you're looping through stuff, make sure that you're adding that updated record to a brand new collection variable, and then that's what you use to either update or delete or whatever you're doing with those records. So in this case, we're doing updated ops. That's what we want to update because that's going to contain the updated stage. And once we have that, I think we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and hit save right here. And right here, we're going to call this set ops to closed lost on account close, I guess. I'm not really sure. Again, naming convention, make sure you guys do a better job than me. So let's go ahead and save this right here. And once that's done, make sure you activate it. That's a very important thing to do right there. And now we can go ahead and do like a debug real quick. When we hit debug right here, we're able to basically test it without actually committing changes to our org. So that's kind of neat. Right here, we can choose an account. And if we go back to our Grand Hotels account, let's see real quick. So right here, it is active and we do have a few opportunities. So we could probably use this. That should suffice. So we're going to use the Grand Hotels right here. And then here, what we're going to do is we're going to go down to wherever the active thing is. I'm going to go ahead and search for it because I'm blind. There it is. So we're going to go ahead and change this to no, which should make that flow basically trigger and fire. So we're going to go ahead and change this to no, make it run. And then as it's running, on the right-hand side, you see we have all these different things that's kind of doing stuff, right? And if we scroll all the way down, we see here at the bottom, we have this thing called rollback, which basically just says because, the flow around in rollback mode, any changes were rolled back. So it's not actually making, it's not doing anything to your org. So that's kind of good to know. But as you see here, we have quite a few things that actually changed, right? So if we just start from the top, click this right here, it says this debug was triggered as if the account record was updated. This person started the flow, and then just some general information about the flow. And then right here, you see it triggered because the conditions were met. So basically the active checkbox was set to no. So that's good. And right here, the next step is you basically see that we did the get records. We got some opportunities and it says it successfully found some records. And then now it basically is looping through all of those records, right? And for each one of those, it's setting the stage name to closed lost. And then after that, it's adding that entire record to that brand new collection variable we created. And basically you just see the thing repeats. It repeats for every single record that was found in the system. Up until we scroll down and we get to the last record right here. And then at the end, because we're done looping, it's not going to go ahead and update the records. So if we click into that, you see here, the stage name was set to close lost for all of these. Awesome. Okay. So it looks like it's working just fine. So let's go ahead and actually run this now in our org. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, let's go ahead and refresh this real quick just to be certain that everything is fine. You'll see here that the active is still set to yes for our Grand Hotels and Resorts account. What I'm going to go ahead and do is actually we don't need to do anything. So just taking a note on what these stages are. I guess I'll just like duplicate this screen so we can see what the old values are and kind of compare to them. So this will be the old values. And now what we want to do is we want to set this active to be no, which would make the flow actually fire. We'll hit save right here. It's going to take a few seconds. And now you see all these are set to closed lost, right? So let's go ahead and, let me go ahead and go back. And yep, closed lost right here. This is the updated ones. And these were the old values. And as I'm sure you can tell, this thing got changed, it looks like. So the Grand Hotels emergency generators looks like it was updated, even though it shouldn't have been, which tells me that our condition was slightly wrong. It looks like we can't just do commas in there, but let's go ahead and check this real quick. So if we look at our stage history, yeah, it looks like this is today's date. It was still updated. It was updated to closed lost. So if we go back into our flow, and this is a mistake I made because it's been a while since I've done this, like I said. So to fix that, let's go into our get records real quick. And instead of having this, because it doesn't seem to be working as expected, we're going to delete closed lost, and we'll just do another condition. And this should still be set to and. I'm not sure why it was at org. So basically get all the records where the stage name is not equal to closed one and it's not equal to closed lost. So let's do this right here. Stage name does not equal closed lost, like so. Okay. And it has to be an and, right? Because if it's an or, it would only be if it only meets one of these conditions, right? Where if it's an and, we won't get any records where it's not either of these two. So hopefully that makes sense. And I guess in this case, it wouldn't really matter if we still had records closed lost, because if you try to change the name or change the stage name from closed lost to closed lost, it's still closed lost. But I would rather not have those records to update in the first place, which is why I'm still excluding them right here. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's go ahead and click done right here. We'll go ahead and save as one more time and save right here. Don't forget to activate it so that's actually being run in our org. And let's go back to our account. So on my account, what I've gone ahead and done is for the opportunities, I changed one of them back to closed one and another one to prospecting. And I also changed the active on the account to yes, just so we can kind of make sure that this is working completely as expected, right? So now let's go ahead and change the active on the account to no, and hopefully this works this time. So as we can see here, now the Grand Hotels emergency generators is still set to closed one. So that means it did not change this time. And the one that was prospecting has now been changed to closed lost. So it looks like it is indeed working. And this is pretty much our flow. So again, one more time, just to kind of go through it for like the 10th time. When the flow runs because the account was updated and it met the criteria, we're going to get all of the opportunities that are not closed one and that are not closed lost. Then we're going to loop through each one of those. And for each one of those, we're going to set the stage to closed lost right there. And we're also going to assign that record to a brand new collection variable. And it's going to iterate through all those records that were retrieved from the get records elements up until the last one. After it's done processing, then we're going to go ahead and do an update records. And all we're doing is we're getting that updated opportunities collection variable that we created, and we're just updating with the brand new stage name value. And that's basically all there is to it. So hope this made sense. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comment section down below. Consider subscribing if you guys found this useful, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.